like that.
How much do you know about the Eagles? Your sister about the Ashes concert? Is on that one side of it? And this is showing power, and the system's just blinking.
Mind if I sit there? May I sit there?
So you got your special coffee, huh?
Yes, I opened it. Yes,
I went all the way to Africa just to get that for you.
Because you like me.
I do.
I've done it for a while.
Hey, it's not 7:30.
Every morning, we always have this is instant. It's just,
It's probably still a dust. It's still okay.
No,
They changed.
there are two new ones, Pastor Lonnie and Pastor Peter.
So then did you like
We're
order
getting more
different,
into this sustainability.
I don't remember that name. We met all 60-plus pastors, but I don't remember that
well,
name.
he was F6E.
He was, yeah.
He was not there when I was there in 2011.
It's an amazing place.
We were there in 16.
Oh, okay.
Bill,
So they changed it.
I just, we were treated like royalty.
Oh, yes.
I don't care if I ever see
I did not include the photo of the goat.
Oh, you should have. That's such a tradition.
I know, but
When they prepared the goats? Yeah. And then the honor of the house carried it.
takes back doesn't attack.
we just went to visit them last. I just always
We went there first.
this year 10 years. But that's what we do. I can send you.
Are we gonna be singing along?
We're gonna have to dance too. Wait till you see the other choirs. So this was our greeting in Tanzania at the airport. It was the cathedral's choir from Wooster River. And they greeted us with song, as everyone greets you with song. Okay, and then Bishop Elias gave us a greeting to all of us who were there. After this, we headed out, went over to the rest house at the Synod, where they gave us a meal, and the choir sang, and we had presentations and thank yous and all sorts of fun stuff. All of the items that you gave, and I should have put in the photo of what St. Matt's gave by itself, because the number of toothbrushes and medical supplies that we were taking back was just incredible. These suitcases are all gifts either to the schools or to the hospitals. And I think we had 18, 20 suitcases.
At least, and they were jam-packed full.
Yes, they were packed.
And customs searched every one of them.
Oh, my God.
And they didn't like some of the stuff we were bringing until, thankfully, Emmanuel Katoy was with us, Bishop Elias's son. And he's over there going, no, you're letting all of this go through. You're letting all of this go through. This is our partners at Singizi. This is their choir.
One of them, one of seven.
One of 7 choirs, that's true. And I think we heard 3.
At least, yeah.
We also were told when we were there. Stop that. Yeah. We were also told that, oh, you get to go to the second service, and Ginger and I are sitting there, cool, 9 o'clock, that's gonna be great. Second service was at 7:30. First service was at 6, and we heard the bells and we heard the choir singing at 6 o'clock in the morning from where we were staying. So we hit the 7:30 service, which was done in Swahili, and the 11 o'clock service, which is done in Meru. So both services were a great time. Come on.
And just an aside, second service started at 7:30, we rolled in about 8. It was, 7:30 is a suggestion, and it's like, we were guest of honor, so they walked us right down the front of the seat, no sneaking into the back pew there.
So I'm sitting there going, yep, we're gonna have to memorize the music, the harmony, and dance.
She's got some great ideas for St. Matt's Choir.
The joy of the music that they provide is absolutely incredible. Which is why I've included a lot of it, just simply because it's so joyful and it's so impactful. Now, we could probably get that done with choir, just going back and forth. This is Ginger, Pastor Amani, Pastor Peter, and me. Pastor Amani has just been assigned to Singizi. Pastor Peter's been there, I think, about a year and a half. Pastor Amani is very fluent in English. Pastor Peter, not so much. Pastor Amani is shared between Singizi and the Sela parish, so he left at the 11 o'clock service to go up to Sela to do their service. We tried to convince them to do the 7:30 and just have him down with us at 11, so we didn't have to get up so early, but it didn't quite work. Too happy clicking. This is Evangelist Lydia. In Tanzania, you have pastors, you have evangelists. The evangelists are more or less like the deacon or the assistant that is up on the altar at times, but it's a more formal position. She works there all the time. She does the outreach for the homebound, takes communions into the communities, the whole bit. She is a delightful woman. She is just bubbling over. And we gave him the prayer shawl. And one of the prayer shawls that I took over was very brightly colored, so I gave the dull ones to the guys. And I said, this one's for you. And she just had this great smile on her face. We were presented with gifts from the church. And then this is the front of the Singizi, which has changed. I don't remember the railing being there when I was there the last time. So it keeps changing and updating.
What's not showing in that picture is up at the top of the altar around the ceiling are neon lights that switch from blue to red to green. I found it very distracting, but that's just my...
When your mind wandered because the sermon was being done in Swahili or Meru. Of course, Pastor Amani was down giving us the interpretation of the sermon at one point. He was translating for us. This is a Sindisi leadership. Some of these people you'll remember. Benson's on the end in the back. He's been around for a long time. He's a great individual that we've been working for. The young man in front of him came up to us after the church service, introduced himself as, "I'm getting one of your scholarships." And it was just so cool because it was very, very forthcoming, very polite, being up there talking to us, and spent the entire day with us. Wherever we were going, he just decided he'd come along.
We were joined at the hip, yeah. He
Yeah.
just would not leave us.
He is very excited about having the scholarship.
He takes his exam in October to see if he gets into college.
That's awesome.
And so I asked him if he was studying. He says, "No, you guys, the mom and me will never quit, you know."
And it is, it's a promise of the scholarship right now. He passes the exam, he's got the scholarship. When I was there back in 2011, oh no, I think these are even before that. This might have been the first trip. We gave stoles, these are the ones that the kids did. I thought they were the woven ones, but these are the ones that the kids did. So they pulled out the stoles to show that, yep, they still have them, you can use them.
And the gentleman on the left in the picture was a stand-in because, like Darla said, Pastor Amani was at the other building, so.
Yeah, I believe he was the evangelist at Kira, but we never really got his name. This is Sunday school
Wow.
with all the kids.
Yeah.
What they do at their church service is they call all the kids up, they bless them, they go out and do some Sunday school stuff, and then after the services are done, they're back in church doing more Sunday school. Here's our partnership committee. We're waiting to get all of the names because we only know some of them. This is Praise Mbizi. Praise is now the head of the partnership committee, and he's such a delightful man. One of the other things that they've done with the monies that we've sent is that they've built houses for some of their parishioners who were homeless. And this is the one that I went to. This was referred to as Nancy's house. It's not completely finished, but for the family, they're sitting there going, it's a roof over our head. We did not have that before. And you'll find, when you're in Africa, you will find that we look at and we see poverty. They say, I have a roof. It's a completely different mindset, a completely different perspective. Now this is the one that you went to.
Mhm. This is another house that was built for the homeless widow. It is not yet finished. The only furniture in it is a mattress on the floor in her bedroom, and she is just tickled as can be to have this.
Concrete floor?
Yep.
It's all concrete block.
And that must be the whole family.
Mhm.
Then there was also a blessing for the shut-ins that Chris and Ginger went to. Again, I was not there, I came back early.
The lady in the center in the red shawl, she's recovering from a stroke. And she was asleep when we got there, but she was so excited to have prayers said for her that she made her way out, and it was very moving. She was almost in tears. It was very touching.
And the photo with the Ginger and Chris and the family. I actually have photos of Chris. And again, this is with Praise Mbizi, and I'm not sure where that one was.
That wasn't Rosemary, that was somebody else. We were introduced to so many people, and I have trouble with names anyway, so I try really hard to learn most of them, but hers I've forgotten.
Here's another one of our scholarship recipients, Dr. Honest, who just happened to be in Sinkizi when I was there and came over because he knew somebody from St. Matthew's was there. After he got his doctorate, his MD, he worked in Dar es Salaam, which is the capital, And then he had just been transferred over to a medical facility in Arusha. And he's waiting to go back to school in order to pick up a specialty in mental health.
He looks so young.
They are young when they go through this.
Yeah.
And here's us with Calvin. As I said, joined at the hip, but he was just a delightful young man. This is something that wasn't there when I was there the last time. They put a playground in. When we were there the last time, there's a Compassion International School for Children co-located at Singhisi. And on Saturday, the kids are there for the Compassion International. They have some Bible stories, they're taught some economics, they've got a course load that they do. Of course, I kind of blew that the day I was there. But the first time we were there, Benson was running the program. After we were done, he goes, "Our children never know how to play. They never get a chance to play." And so we played with them, and now they've got playground equipment in there. And I'm assuming part of this came from us also. And right now they're rebuilding the women's bathroom facilities, and that's the project that they picked with our donation from this year. They also developed their own sound room and recording studio. And it's a pretty elaborate setup.
And they also rent it out as a source of income for the church too. So
This is Compassion International. This is just a little tiny glimpse of some of the children that are there. There's 200, I think they said there was 209 children between the ages of 3 and 21. And more of the children. And their song and dance group. This is the choir. And it's all done to drum music. Just fascinating. And here's a presentation of the gifts that we sent over for Compassion International. There are soccer balls, and by the second day, somebody had already blown up the soccer ball and was playing soccer in the yard. We've got coloring things. That's that. We have bubbles. Oh my God. Kids swarmed for bubbles. There were bubbles all over the place. And I don't think they had seen bubbles until we were there in 2011 or 2014. And we gave them a parachute. Now Gretchen said the parachute, she wrote out all sorts of instructions as to how you play games with it and the whole bit. I told her that was worthless. I mean, they got the parachute and it's like, we're just gonna throw it up in the air and run underneath it. And this is our host family, the first weekend we were there. Frank and Linda Akio. Frank is a professor at the university. Linda teaches English at one of the Catholic schools.
Secondary school.
And they've got 3 kids. Govind, Gabriella, and Griffin is the youngest one.
Griffin was born on Christmas Day. We're here in January. This child is 6 months old, and she's hosting 2 people from
6 months old, he's 6 weeks old.
6 weeks, yeah, excuse me, 6 weeks, all right. It's like, and she's hosting us. It was amazing.
And they're hosting us, and in the middle of the night, Saturday night, the power went off and was off until the middle of the night, Sunday night. So they were hosting us, they were preparing food for us. So, I have to share this. This is Gabriella. Gabriella is 3 years old, just started going to school this week, and they taught her a song in English. Oops. Oh, come on. Give me Gabby. Maybe I need to do that. And she decided my cane was a microphone.
Now, just for reference, you were in Arusha, you were in Singhisi,
Yep.
which is, how you would call it, a suburb of Arusha?
It's a village.
It's a smaller.
Yeah, it's a village, but it's getting much bigger.
Village.
It's about 15 miles from Arusha.
And Arusha would be considered a big town.
And this is a photo that Governor and I took in the dark because we had no electricity that night. Then we had several meetings with the diocese, all included lunch, some included goat.
Most of them.
This is Bishop Elias, Bishop Paul, and the assistant bishop, and I don't remember his name. And more of our group. This is some of the 60 pastors that came to see us. It was, we've got a meeting, the Milwaukee delegation here is, Milwaukee Synod is here, we gotta have a meeting with them, and everybody showed up. Some of these guys traveled like 5 hours to get there. We know that because it took us about that long to get up to some of their parishes. We had a question and answer with them too, which was pretty unique. I think the first question was about the new administration, which got groans from most of the people in our crowd. And the second question was on the LGBTQ, which I think Bishop Paul handled really, really well. He's, in a long way around, he essentially said, God makes all of us in his or her own image, and God tells us to love everybody. So we accept and we love. This young man is Sirichi, who is the treasurer for the diocese. He's somebody that I have to work with because I'm the treasurer for the committee here. And this is Bishop Paul's version of what I gave to the church. Not only is it the chalice, there were 2 chalices, but it was also a very elaborately carved ebony bread plate with a cover on top. Sitting right next to him is, besides Bishop Elias, is Afi, who works for the Synod, and she's one of the assistants to Bishop Paul. So here are some of the projects that the Diocese of Meru participates in. When you go to Tanzania, it is truly an accompaniment. They don't want us to come over and do work. They want us to be with them. They want to show us what they've been working on, things that they're proud of, how they get all of their children involved with things. And so this was at the Gaza Primary School. And again, song, dance. Now these kids, I think, watched a little bit of TikTok. Because it wasn't quite traditional African dance. And then it was what they refer to as pee-pee, candy. And they just mobbed around. It was like, starting a line, no lines. And some of them would come back, and finally Chris got to the point of going, no, you've been here before. There's one in their mouth, there's one in their hand, there's one in their pocket. Yes, you've had it. But it just shows the excitement that they have for us to be there. Okay, and this is out in the Maasai area, the Garanuki. And this is another one.
So notice the school in the back. It has murals on the wall. All of the schools have this. They'll have like the solar system, and it's like they're a book on the wall. For reference. It's fascinating.
This one has parts of the body. There were, yeah. Traditional Messiah greeting. Since the Milwaukee Synod was here, I mean, they put the call out that the Milwaukee Synod was going to be at Nagara or whatever, I can't remember it off the top of my head. We had people walking for hours to get there, to be with us. And to be with us was to have a church service and a minor church service and presentations and just spending time with us. And then we did a blessing of one of the pastor's house that is being built. Now this is one of the churches that is looking for partners. We've got 115 congregations in in the Milwaukee Synod. I think they've got like 150 parishes in Meru, and there are about maybe 30 that have partners. So the rest of them are looking around going, yeah, we want to have this relationship too. The kids are always fascinating. And this is when we bless the house that's being built for the pastor. And afterwards, we're all around. They were selling some of their jewelry. The kids were making sure that they were in as many photos as they could be.
Notice the circular thing in the back? That's the church bell. They just ring it with a stick.
So this is the Nikoranga orphanage. The interesting thing about this is that if you go through the back stairwell, we have all the kids' handprints on the wall. Here they've got all the kids' handprints as you come in. They call it an orphanage, but it's not a traditional orphanage. It is a place where children whose mother died in childbirth or shortly thereafter, they take the children for the first 5 years, raise them, and then the family comes back and takes the children back home. So it's more like, they refer to it as a baby home at times. And I said, that's a far more accurate impression, because we look at orphanage and we think, oh, they're up for adoption. But they are just being held and taken care of until the family can do it.
And during those 5 years that the children are there, their staff is also working with the families to help them understand where this child is in their development and to make that transition back into the family a lot smoother and easier.
Who sponsors and runs it?
The
This is,
diocese.
yeah, it's done by the diocese. It's part of the hospital. And I was talking to Frank Goodwin and asked about if we give unspecified money for medical purposes to the diocese, what do you do with it? He goes, our priority is the orphanage. We want that taken care of first, because the woman who's been running it, I think, has been running it for no pay for the last few years. And you hear that a lot, that people are working for no pay simply because they have a commitment to what they've been doing. So that's the orphanage building. This is one of the playrooms. I think they were gathering up like 6 kids at this point to take them in for nap time. And of course, you know, Deb could not avoid holding a baby, so we've had babies. We had little kids that just grabbed onto people's hands and would walk all over with them. Laundry day, just all the clothing that they've been putting out and working on. And they have, this is their playground, because as the kids get a little bit older, they acclimate them to play, including the jumping trampoline. Now we're in the hospital. This is the X-ray room, which looks different than it was when we were there. This was.
The lab.
The lab, you went in there. Ginger came out and said, it doesn't have a lot, but what it's got is functional. You can get whatever you need done. This is their ultrasound machine. It is one machine, it has got several different attachments to it for the different types of ultrasounds that you need. And it's like, yeah, if we need to do this, I have pull out this one, or if I need to do this, I got this one. It's like they make it work. And here's the chapel at Nicaragua. This was being built when I was there the last time, and it's a nice little chapel right there. They are now in the process of building their new emergency center, where they'll have, they'll do intake and emergency and a lot of outpatient work. So we had a lot of construction that we were dealing with. Some of their buildings and some of their projects are being financed by, they've got German partners too. And the German partners have been very active with the medical programs. So this is the Mishikamano Vocational Technical School, which is also a fascinating place because this is one of the schools that kids go to after they come out of high school. They can go to college or university, or they can go to the technical school. They're taught skills and trades at the technical school, not to get a job, but to be an entrepreneur. To go out and make money on, make a living on their own, not necessarily be working for somebody else. They learned how to type on the old electric type. Actually, these were the old manual typewriters.
That's where I learned to type in high school, I learned.
I think we all did. It was like, we started talking, like, yeah, I had one of those, until we got the IBM Selectric. Woo!
Big time, yeah.
This is one of their computer labs. They were working on understanding Excel at the time.
And 3 or 4 students, sometimes 5, share one terminal.
And
And
work
that
together.
class was packed.
This is their hair. I mean, their beauty and hair salon. So they do the braiding, they were doing makeup. They were doing nails. Didn't see them doing pedicures, but they were doing manicures. Again, all with the intent of being able to go out and make your own living. These were our chefs. These were the students who made our lunch the day that we were at the school. A great group of kids, well, young adults, and they made some outstanding food and another goat. That was number 3.
Stop
Don't worry,
counting
you have
after
plenty of goats,
several.
As I said, goats always cheer as we leave. So one of the things, you can say something. Oh, we also stopped at in a classroom with theology students. And this was their first step in theology. They either were going to become an evangelist at the end of it, or they were going to go to the seminary afterwards. Their request was that pray for them as they go through their career in the ministry. This is Macamira Cultural School, which is really kind of cool. It's the first cultural school that was created in Tanzania. They do art, they do music, they do dance. Yeah. Oh yeah, we had Ginger up dancing. I had my cane, I couldn't dance.
We weren't allowed to take any videos because Bishop Paul did not want to prove that he was dancing.
But he was.
He was.
Sounds like a Minnesota move.
And the interesting thing is, as they built their buildings, they built them with some type of traditional significance. This one is built as an African drum. And as you can see, it's all around, the staves are coming down on the side. inside in the circular staircase, they have an ujima. But this one is a little bit different. They put musicians in theirs. So this goes like 2 stories with musicians and artists. This is their performing hall. The roof on it is designed to look like a Maasai shield. All open air, they have concerts. They're looking to host singing groups. We can go over, but we'd have to learn how to dance. Some of the musical instruments, and I don't know if they make them. They may.
No, I didn't.
I don't recall. And then we had a lesson to learn how to drum, do African drumming. We did okay.
I thought we did quite well, actually, but.
Then it was followed by the dance, which there are no photos of. And this must be one of the dorms, Karen?
This is at the vocational school.
Oh, okay.
They have a special program for young mothers. Because once a young woman gives birth, she's not allowed back into traditional school. So they stay in these dorm rooms Monday through Friday. They go home on the weekends to care for the baby, come back Monday through Friday and take their classes. There's not a lot of extra space in those dorm rooms.
And this is another one that you went to.
Yeah. You didn't go to that?
No. So you got to talk about telescopes for Tanzania.
Somebody from the Wisconsin area donated money for this telescope. It's in part of this seminary out there, and we were all excited to go and look at the sky and learn all we could about the sky. Except when we got there, they prepared a beautiful meal, and as the goat was being served, the heavens opened up, and the rains came, and the hail came, and that was the end of the telescope.
The rains came about a month early. And they were not little gentle rains, they were downpours.
And the hail was about the size of
Yeah, where I was, because I wasn't with you guys, where I was, there was no hail, there wasn't even rain.
And this is a metal building. Can you imagine? Oh, I was in there. Oh, wow. But we were dry and we were safe. We just didn't get to see the sky.
So we heard a lot of thunder and lightning up, and we hear a lot of thunder from up on Meru. And there was even a chance for us to see snow on Mount Meru, which you generally don't see. And, Pat, I got to see Kilimanjaro. And I'll let you take over the safari.
Oh, well,
Because
you
I
do the
was not there.
slides and all.
Okay. So this is safari. Bishop Paul and I came home, so that.
Okay, this is back at our second weekend in CEC.
I thought it might be, but I couldn't
Yes.
place it.
So notice the pavers there. The last time some of you were there, maybe remember, it was all dirt. So the pavers were also a use of St. Matt's funds. It really cuts down on the dust, it cuts down on the mud, it makes it a whole lot better. And so they did a dance for us in the traditional Maasai. And Pastor Chris and I actually got involved too, but I don't know if there's any pictures of that. We went to a Maasai village. It's a traditional Maasai village. If you pay them $10 a person, they let you come in and you can actually go inside their hut. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm 5'7", I couldn't stand up in it. And the little hut that I was in was mom and dad and 3 children, 2 beds as hard as a rock, no lights, you couldn't see hardly anything in there, and it was just.
And a place for a fire.
And a little fire pit, yes. And, so it was just really interesting to see how they live. Now, the gentleman whose home I was in his English was very good, so I asked him where he learned. They actually go to school, and so his English was fine. They either walk or a good distance, but they are educated, and yet they choose to come back and live this lifestyle. It was very hard for me to wrap my head around it. You know, you get out into the world, and yet you choose to come back.
So in their school system, their primary is taught in Swahili, which is teaching the kids a new language because it's different than the Meru that they're raised on. When they go into the secondary school, they're taught English. And the school that we went to up in the Maasai area, all they did was teach English, to get the kids acclimated to English. And they said that they had 1,000 students. And we're looking around because, you know, there's probably maybe 120. But kids will come. If they can make it to school, they'll go to school. Otherwise, if they're needed at home, they'll stay at home. And it's just amazing.
This particular picture was actually on the safari. The places where we stayed prepared box lunches for us, so we had a picnic by this tree in the shade. And we saw like 2 little Maasai boys. And then all of a sudden there were 3, and then there were 4, and then there was a whole bunch. They got the leftovers from lunch, and they were so excited to get it. I think this happens a lot in Southern. But we shared our juice boxes, and they were happy. So yeah, these are the huts. They're thatched. They're very small. But interestingly, we've seen some that had solar panels on the thatching roof, so they do have access to some electricity.
That's so they plug in their cell phones.
That's about it.
And here's the inside that
They also had a satellite dish
Satellite dish, yeah.
on one of them.
That was the exception though, but but yeah, it's just, this is how it looks on the inside, as best as you can tell. It's really hard to see.
My guess is that the person with the satellite dish and the solar panels is somebody from someplace else who was coming up and doing some missionary work or whatever, and couldn't live without
That's very
the
possible.
technology. I always said, after the first time I was there, that if we lose technology in this world, if everything blows up, Africa survives, and Africa brings us back. Because if you need a chair, you go to the guy down the road who makes chairs. If you need a sofa, you go to the sofa guy. If you need beautiful bed frames, hand-carved wood bed frames, that Iman said, it probably would cost about $100. I said, yeah, and a couple thousand to ship back home. But those were just made by the guy on the side of the road. And they're so self-sufficient that they take care of themselves. They raise their own food, they raise their own coffee, they raise their own chickens and livestock, and the cows. Did you make it to the cow project at all, or not? When we were in St.
We saw the cows. I didn't see a cow project per se, but we saw several cows.
Oh, the heifer project.
Yeah, because if you think back years ago, we sponsored a number of heifers for families in Singizi. And the process.
There has been, in the program since its inception, over 170 cows have gone through the program. Now, not all of them are still alive because of the normal lifespans, but it's been a huge impact to their economy.
Now, we had a 10-minute talk on the lineage of the one that was given and where we were at this point.
I didn't get that, but yeah.
Well, yeah, the process with it is that the first one goes to the family. The firstborn goes to the church, and the church decides where it goes from there. The second-born offspring goes to somebody that the family picks, and the third one they can keep.
Can you put your microphone down?
Oh, sure. Want me to go through that again?
No,
Oh, okay.
but it'll be easier for me to hear if you're speaking in your microphone.
So, it's just been fascinating to see how we've done, how things have changed even since I was there 11 years ago. In addition, we'd be at some of the farms, and there would be our manure pits, our methane pits that we sponsored a few years back.
This was one of the state parks that we visited for our safari. Now, right in front of there is a road, and then on this side of the road is Serengeti. So there's a picture of me on that sign, and then I walked across and I got a picture of me at the Serengeti sign. But we did not purchase admission into Serengeti because the animals don't know that there's a border, so that when you're outside of the city area along the side, it's exactly like you're in the Serengeti. So, however, we were driving along the road and we saw a hyena off in the distance. So of course the driver just, off the road we go, there's a hyena. And we get up there, the hyena, there were 3 hyenas they had a half of a gazelle that they were finishing up. It's like, fortunately, we didn't see it taken down, but we saw the aftermath. And there was a bird just waiting for leftovers, and it kept inching closer and closer. And then they would go at it, and the bird would fly away, and the bird would come closer. But so technically, when we were there at the Hyenas, we were in Serengeti, even though we weren't supposed to be. It's just flat. You can see for miles. Oh, there it is, across the street.
That's where we flew out.
And the next one is,
And this is Tarangire. This is the elephant sanctuary. The day we saw 129 elephants. And it was just amazing. We started off, we didn't see very many. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a long day. And all of a sudden, bam. It must have been the time of day they were all coming out for feeding. And it's like, we couldn't see enough of them. They were amazing.
You see a big bull one with a broken tusk.
No, why? Is that your friend?
it's the one that charged all of us.
Oh, that charged them, and then
Yeah, I heard about
I was there with a different group at the same time, and we happened to go to Tarangire,
Still.
and when Pastor Chris and them were showing the pictures, I'm going, I recognize that.
Actually, Pat's got the best photos of that, because as this elephant turns and starts charging towards our Jeep, Chris starts panicking. Pat just sat there and took photos. So you see the elephant turning, and you see the little dust at its feet, and you see it gets closer and closer and closer, and pretty soon all you see is the crown of the head right behind. And then we take off.
We got close, but none of them charged us. We were safe.
Up until that point, our guide said he had never been charged by an elephant.
So there's a crater up there that you can actually go down into the crater, and that's where the rhinos all habitate. It would have added a couple of hours to our trip, and we were on a pretty tight schedule, so we did not go into the crater, but we did stop at the viewpoint up at the top to look. It was pretty fascinating. A little hazy, so you couldn't see all that well, but it was. This was just one of many. There were such beautiful animals. But you can see how flat it is, and off in the distance you could,
Yeah.
cheetahs we saw?
Yes.
Mom and two babies. That's the hail from the telescope.
Oh, that's from the telescope?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you zoom in closely, you can see the hail, but boy, it was coming down hard.
You can tell I wasn't there because I put him in the wrong
Yeah.
spot.
Oh. Yeah, this was back when we were at the telescope.
Zebras.
Lots of zebras, lots of wildebeest, lots of giraffes, lots of gazelles.
And then you get to some of my favorites.
We happened upon a pride of, actually, all the safari guides are on walkie-talkie radios, and if there's a sighting of something unusual, they let everybody know, and it's like ants to a picnic. All the safari vehicles just kind of descend on wherever these animals are. So we counted, I think, 10 lions, just sunning themselves. It was really fun just to watch. This is an overlook of one of the lodges at Tarangire. We did not stay here. That was our first choice to stay, but they didn't have room for all the group. So we stayed at a different place. But
The interesting thing about this, and this is really green because it's summertime. In the morning, you can sit up there and watch the animals come down to the water. And
It's like a
first you'll-
Disney movie.
And first you'll get the gazelles going down, and then they'll be back, and then you'll see something else, the zebras will go down, and then the elephants will go down, and it's just amazing to watch.
oh, there it is. So in the pride of all the lions, there was Papa Lion that was just snoozing there. I kept waiting for him to lift his head so we could see a better picture, but it's what you get.
But you weren't going to go over and touch them?
No.
And there's your elephant by, that's not a bullet tree.
No, that's an acacia.
Yeah.
That's up at the crater. So we just Now, again, like Darla said, we're just coming off the winter, so everything was green, because people had been there before and it's just all brown. Do I look like I'm a tourist or what? Am I a safari vest? So here's our lunch, and that's where we saw earlier where we were feeding our leftovers went to the Maasai kids. There's lots of elephants. I don't know. I mean, an elephant's an elephant. Is that the one with the broken tusk?
No.
No. He looks different.
Doesn't look quite as mean as the one with the broken tusk. So I think that the thing that we need to take away, and maybe that's what Ginger and I should talk about a little bit, is the impression of being in a community like Tanzania, because it is so amazing. They're so welcoming. They have so much faith. And they're self-sufficient. I mean, we sit there, that one night, we were doing devotions and someone said something about the poverty, and I said, be careful about that, because in their mind, they've got everything that they need. We're judging by our standards. We can't do that. We have to assume that we're in their standards. We are now looking at doing a trip from St. Matthew's in either 26 or 27. Depends on if we want to go for Bishop Elias's retirement party or not. So we're looking at putting something together to go. Probably won't be a group of 17 like we had this time. But
It was a great group of people, but it was almost too large. Trying to get everybody focused and heading in the right place at the right time. But
there wasn't enough room at the rest house at the Synod. So 4 of us had to stay off-site, which meant that we got to bed a half hour later because we had to drive that far to get to our lodging. We had to get up that much earlier to get there, to meet. And it was like, yeah, it would have been far more fun to have been at the guest house and involved with everybody else.
so this was my first time there. I had no expectations. I didn't know what I was going to encounter. After visiting the health clinic and learning all of the dangerous diseases over there, I'm thinking, what do I? But I think I saw one mosquito the entire time I was there. But we're taking our malaria pills religiously. We got our netting all over us, but I think it was a little over precaution. So I spent most of the time just step back, listening, watching, and seeing. I just got back Thursday night. My body is still on Tanzanian time. So I haven't really had time to process it. But exactly as Darla said, they have everything they need. In the morning, they go out and they pick a mango off the tree. It's the best tasting mango you've ever had. They grow all of their food. And I had heard stories of people from St. Matt's who had been there prior years about the facilities or lack thereof. It was fine. Most of the places had what we call Western toilets, and most of them actually had toilet paper. There were a couple where you had the squatty potty, and you know, there's a YouTube video that tells you how to use a squatty potty. I watched it. It was very helpful. But yet, the people are happy. They pray unceasingly. They are just joyful. They sing all the time in 7-part harmony. Yeah. Yes, question?
I just wanted to recall, I was telling Pastor Kevin some of the stories that Pastor Elias brought to us, but one of the things, and I don't know how many of you remember, we raised enough money for 22 milk cows. And it might not seem like anything, but to the family that has a milk cow, they have milk, but the milkman comes and buys the extra milk from the families. So it's a source of income. And I remember that the people that were there, they picked up Pastor Chris on their shoulders and carried him through the village. They were so appreciative of just a small thing that we do for them. So they are a very warm, welcoming people, and it's a beautiful country. And
they're so giving. They share everything. And so at the church service itself, there were probably 3 or 4 different offerings, And people who didn't have money would bring jugs of milk, would bring mangoes and papayas and bananas and everything else. And after the service, then you all go to the courtyard and they'd auction it off, which was really fun to watch. So we bid and bought on a lot of things and then just donated it to the other people who were bidding. It just really was amazing.
That's because they're very proud people. I too was honored guest at a 3-hour Lutheran church service with 2 pastors, one in Swahili, one in English. And yeah, one of the offerings was people would bring chickens and things like that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards the distribution was, they had a auction, but the only people that bid were the people who needed it, because they had pride. Because it wasn't a handout now, it was, they were
Right, they bought it.
purchasing it.
Yeah. And so we went to their market, because we had seen women carrying these big bunches of bananas on their heads. So I saw a bunch of bananas at the market, just tried to lift it. I couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
It was like at least 70 pounds, and they just pop it up on their head and walk along. It's like, wow. They are in good shape. They eat very healthy. There's no processed foods. There's no additives like we have in this country. They eat well and they walk, so they're all in really good shape. At the hospital, the doctor we were speaking with said the average life expectancy there is 75, but he said he expects it to come down because there's been an influx now of motorcycles from China, which has really helped spur the economy, because now they can get to where they want to go much faster and trade their goods and services. But there's a lot of accidents. And so the orthopedic surgeon is kept quite busy there.
And that's one thing to remember, is that China is stepping into the void. China is providing a lot of things. They'll come over and pave the roads. They'll come over and bring the motorcycles in. The hospital's looking for a new generator. It's going to come from China.
And part of the reason for that too, excuse me for interrupting, was not only the China's there to help, but it's easier for them in Tanzania to get parts from China than they can from Japan, or definitely easier than from the US. So they go where it makes the most sense to them.
Then you look at our proposal to cut all of the US aid monies, which is a little tiny part of the federal budget, but that little tiny part goes a long way. Any questions?
What was the weather like? And then you mentioned there were 2 different lengths for this trip. You just got back, but you said that some people couldn't stay as long?
Yeah, Bishop Paul and I came back a week ago Friday.
Okay. And the rest of us came back we started on Wednesday, got home on Thursday.
So were you there for 2 weeks then, or more?
A little over 2.
Okay.
But for the first part, when we were doing all the diocese and the Singisi partnership events, Darla and I were together. And then Darla left, and that's when we went on safari.
Oh. But the weather was,
The weather was wonderful. It was mid-80s, perfect for us. They were running around in long sleeves and sometimes jackets. But, yeah, it was.
Question about the orphanage. During the 5 years, what's the frequency or the extent of the family seeing the child?
They said they've got the family coming in and spending time with the child, so that it's not a shock when the child goes home with them.
Okay.
So they condition the child for that.
I don't think they really gave us a frequency of it, but they do make sure that there's an interaction, so that orphanage, it's like, I was dreading going to the orphanage because you hear all these horror stories. It was the happiest place ever. The children were so well adjusted, they all looked well nourished and happy, and then I found out that they're only there for 5 years, and oh, good, this is a good place. A lot of good is being done there.
And I think they said they had, 23 or 28 children right now in there, and some roll off when they're 5 years old, and new ones come in because of the life expectancy of the mothers. We asked at the hospital what the death rate was for mothers in childbirth, and it was very low. They said not all of the mothers come to the hospital to give birth, and the ones that don't end up having problems, and that's when they end up getting the kids. Any other questions?
What are the public health concerns for the communities that you were connected with? Did you get a sense of that?
It depends on the part of Meru that you're in. Meru is a huge area. It includes the high desert plains where the Maasai are. It includes the southern part of the area, which is very arid. Anything that's on the slopes of Mount Meru, they have water. They have access to a lot of things. Now, would I go in and drink the water? No. Do they? Yes. But I don't drink the water when I'm in Peru either, because there's always something in it that, you know, is not good for you. Their health system is set up so that they have what they call dispensaries, which is kind of like an urgent care. You know, I got a cold, I need something. Then they've got the health clinic, which has a little bit, will have a nurse staff to, or a doctor staff to them. Then they've got, I can't remember what the next one was, and it ends up being a hospital. Now, Nicaragua is looking at becoming an actual hospital. They're working at getting the staffing up so that they get that approval from the government. So they're working really hard to keep themselves safe and involved and active, and the motorcycles are scary. Driving the roads are scary. Because I was using my cane while I was over there, I was in the front seat a lot. That's scary. Because you pull out and there's a semi coming at you, and it's like, there's a semi right there. No, it'll slow down, it'll slow down.
Everybody gets along. There didn't see a lot of road rage. They're all just very calm, going about their business.
But Tanzania is much different. Somebody who goes to Tanzania for the safaris will not see Tanzania. They will see the safaris, which are very, very nice and very well built up and, you know, cater to the tourist. They will go to specialized tourist shops that are usually run by Eastern Indians. And it's like, if you want Tanzania, you have to go to the food market. You have to go to the Maasai market and see all of their handworks that they've done, all of their hand carvings and the beautiful work that they put together. The two pieces I brought back were from a small school not far from Wooster River, where they were all trained, they're learning native crafts. And so they handmade both the goblet and the bowl. And they had all sorts of very beautiful pieces. If ebony wouldn't be so heavy, I would have brought a ton back. Yes, Paul?
I was impressed with the buildings there. They seem very well made.
They're working on it.
Can you comment on the government?
Well, in our conversations, when we were talking about it, the first thing they said is, well, we have a new president, and it's a woman. She came into power because their former president died. Their former president swore up and down that there was no such thing as COVID. Told everybody that there was no COVID around. He and his entire office staff died of COVID. And so this woman came in, and everybody's thinking pretty much that, oh, we're excited because she's got some of the background and more interest in the public. And they said, and she got in, and it's catering to the people with money. They have an election coming up this fall.
Yeah. Sounds
So-
familiar.
Yeah, sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
So they've got an election coming up this fall, and they'll see how it goes. They had local elections a while ago, and we've got a water project down in the southern part of Meru. And the council down there was up, and they've been very active in this water project. And the concern is that if the supporters of the water project were defeated, the project would have been stopped. Now, this project provides water for a number of different villages. They said, luckily, the people who were elected were the supporters of the water project. So the project's still going, and they're working on expanding the pipes to more communities. As I said, when you're up on the foothills of the mountain, there's a lot of rivers and streams coming down. And they were rushing pretty hard and heavy.
In fact, the name Singisi means well, you can translate it a couple of different ways. One ends up being swamp, we decided we didn't like that. The other one was spring, so we're going with the springs. But there is a lot of water and running water there. It's really pretty.
Any other questions?
Did you see any of the coffee?
We did.
Areas?
Because the coffee project is run by a number of different people, you know, it's got a complete different setup. We went to it. It was interesting to see, and they've been really working on upgrading some of their facilities. One of the things I noticed at the coffee processing place that we were, because they needed electricity, they ran electricity up there, which meant that everybody on the line coming up had access to electricity. So that's a side benefit of doing the coffee. We went through and had all sorts of presentations on coffee. We also, in Singisi, went down to an organic coffee farm. And Richard took us around and showed us, you know, the beans and what they picked and the whole bit. And then we shelled, we roasted, we ground, and we drank the coffee, a little bit of coffee that day. Now, I don't drink coffee. It probably has been 40-some years since I had coffee. It was pretty tasty. So if you're interested in going when we put together our next trip, just let us know. And we're starting to talk about when we should do it and what we should do already.
Was there any big talk when we were there? There was a referendum going around, it was online, everything. Russia wanted to build a nuclear power plant. But the people were saying, look, we got all the sun, we don't need it. But it was like kind of a referendum, I don't know, not formally, but that was big talk at the time. That would have been 2016.
Yeah, nobody mentioned that this time through. When we were asking about, you know, what are the issues facing?
Did they talk about the high-speed rail?
No. What they did talk about is that the government is changing education standards and processes and not doing it very well. They're kind of moving off of the competency-based to some other type of education system. And when we were with Frank and Linda, they were pretty concerned about that. That they're going to end up getting students who are not well-versed in what they need to be well-versed in order to go on to school. If nothing else, thank you very much.
Thank you.